my end. You guys were way behind me.
Oh, it happens.
Sounded fine on my end. Like one person was like noticeably slower, but it doesn't really matter.
Doesn't really matter how hard you try. Keep that in mind as the pendulum swings.
Oh God, you're just making me think of the Magic trailer.
Which Magic trailer? I watched the Game Awards. There were like 17.
Not the one from the Game Awards, the one that came out earlier this year with like the slow motion, sad cover of In the End.
Yep.
It's like it plays like music, and it takes a while before you realize what it is, and then a piano goes dun 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 dun, and I was like, no. And then a female vocalist goes, it starts with one. I was like, this is not okay.
Petition to change our theme song.
I could feel my brain. I like that song. I could feel my brain folding in on itself. I like Linkin Park. I was the right age when those albums came out, and they're music of my youth. I don't really go back and listen to them now.
You know, we've been doing this for 100 episodes. Well, technically more than 100 with, like movie fix and comic fix, etc. But we've been using the same fucking Mario Party video as the filler video for like well over 2 years now.
How far into it are we?
I've had to restart it once, but it's
okay.
It's a 13-hour video, and I'm at 9 hours again.
Okay.
We should do the idle thumbs thing, and every 50 or 100 episodes change to a different video.
Maybe.
Idle thumbs did that with their theme song.
We should do our own Jackbox stream and then use that as the video. Just play T-Shirt Island or whatever it's called over and over and over again.
TKO?
T-Shirt Island.
T-Shirt Island. It's accurate.
I'm going to call it that forever, because that's a better name than TKO.
I thought it was called T-Fury, then I remembered that's a website where you can buy T-shirts.
T-Shirt Island.
Oh, you could buy Kingdom Under Fire 2 for $100 if you wanted to.
Why?
I don't know. I like Kingdom Under Fire, and I will pick it up when it's on sale, but
for less than $100.
Well, the base game is only $30, but
oh, okay. Okay, that's more reasonable.
It's an MMO, so you can buy shit in it because it's 2019.
Guys, did you see what Shenmue 3 has on OpenCritic?
Probably good.
I'm gonna guess 69.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have brought it up for any other reason.
I don't know.
I'll set 420, which would be like weird.
That'd be pretty impressive, actually.
42.0.
Yep. Hey, Guilt also has 69.
Yeah, I saw that. But Stadia really killing it.
Yep.
Stadia really killing it.
I'd like to point out that Kingdom Under Fire 2 also has 69.
Hell yeah. Oh, right.
Also, when you look at the description for it on OpenCritic, description in all caps, it's an MMO. That's the first line of the description.
What's funny is that it's the least. It's like an RTS. Like it's not. It's an MMO.
Don't worry. Second paragraph. It's an RTS. All
okay,
caps.
there we go. Good. Also, this is a really bad description. Looking at the Steam page, it has some of the dumbest character models in terms of like boob to body ratio that I've seen in a long time.
When you say dumbest, do you mean best or?
No, I mean dumbest.
Oh.
And dumb with 2 Ds though.
Yes.
Dumb. Should we do this?
That's yeah.
I'm just watching this GIF from Boneworks over and over again of a person falling in like a meat grinder.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and get started. It's late. All right.
It's time for us to become legend and storm the field.
What?
Don't worry about it.
2 other subtitles from the Kingdom of the Fire description.
Well, I'm changing my answer to most underappreciated game of the decade.
Your command. It's another one.
Start the fucking podcast.
I'm waiting for silence. Hello and welcome to the episode you've all been waiting for. You've been with bated breath. Episode 100 of Gaming Fix on this.
Yay!
The final episode.
Wait, what?
Wait, what?
That's not true. What? That's not true.
No.
Pat, would you like to share with the
No,
class?
that's not true.
We're being bought by nobody. On this December 14th, 2019, we've got an episode for you today. I think it's a little different than usual, but I think you'll like it. I am your host, Andre Cole, aka your girl's favorite Santa Claus. I am joined today by Alex.
More like Jeff Keighley's ass fix, am I right?
No, that was the other night.
Yeah.
We did that show on Thursday.
Allison.
How do I even follow up with anything after that?
What are your thoughts on Jeff Keighley's ass?
I don't know if I have any thoughts on Jeff Keighley's ass. I didn't watch the Game Awards, so.
I do. It's enormous.
Where do you think
I mean,
keeps all those
as a
Doritos? And Sam.
Hello. There's two members of the podcast here today.
Oh yes, we're joined by Todd Howard today.
Yeah.
How's
special guest.
Fallout going?
If you listen to the audio track, Alex, you will be able to hear him farting, as he
Sick.
has been doing throughout this whole sequence.
That's
I'm
how
so-
The most gaming fix thing of all time. A
also the
farting
most
baby.
Fallout thing of all time.
Nice. Well, that's great to hear that Fallout 76 is continuing on course to be that game still. So before we get started with today's topic,
But wait, who's this other member here that we haven't introduced? Who's named Pat?
because
I said that Jeff Keighley-
he asked about Jeff Keighley's ass.
Oh, okay.
Our thoughts on Jeff Keighley's ass. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeez.
If you break the order, you don't get introduced.
That's how it goes. So before we get started with today's topic, we do have a bit of a little special something for you, the listener, on this 100th episode. This week, in honor of the 100th episode and the holiday season, we've got a big old gift bag of games for you. If you head over to our Twitter from now until December 23rd, you can enter for a chance to win one of the 19 or more games that we've got for you. You'll need to follow the Fix Podcast account and respond and retweet the contest tweet to be eligible. We'll run down some of the games during the show, so keep listening to hear that. And if you're not on Twitter, you can still enter by sending an email to gaming@fix.space. We'll tell you what to include in that email later on in the episode as well, so keep your ears peeled for that. But now let's get on with the show. This week, Pat had the bright idea to discuss underappreciated games of the 2010s.
An idea that
And
was
then
copied by several outlets.
Yeah. We tweeted about it, and then they were like, oh man, that's a great idea. And they all stole the tweet.
Just shows
turned it
how
into an
clear the influence of our podcast is on 100 episodes in.
Yeah. We're titans of the industry.
Top
and
tier influencers. Yep.
Much like Jeff
It's-
Keighley's ass.
It's unfortunate that we weren't able to make it to the Game Awards to present all the most important awards of the night and shake hands with the Muppets.
Oh,
And hang out with Vin
busy.
Diesel.
We were
Yep.
too busy preparing this giveaway.
yeah. Speaking of Jeff Keighley's ass, thanks to the Super GG guys, Super GG Radio guys, for joining us on that Game Award stream.
Yeah, it was
yes.
fun.
If you missed that, we were joined by, Alex and Pat were joined by the Super GG Radio crew, some of them, to talk about the Game Awards as it happened. We'll get into that a little bit later in the show, but for now, we're going to start talking about what we think are some underrated games of the 2010s.
Because y'all, it's about to be it's going to be the roaring 20s.
Oh my God.
Technically, the decade ends.
Oh my
no,
God.
it's not this again.
No.
I only make the joke because I hate it so much.
No, we're talking about the 20s, not it's different from the different decade.
I agree with you. Some people don't.
It's shenanigans. Anyway, Alex,
Hey.
what do you think is an underrated game of the 2010s?
That is a good question. You caught me off guard, and now I'm having to do some magic on here. All right.
Well, I can go to somebody else.
No, it's all good. We are now prepared. So, one game that I think is extremely good, but people just didn't talk about for some reason, came out in 2016. Actually, it shows how much research I did on it. I think it was 16. But it was one called Owlboy.
2016 November.
Yeah, I remember because it definitely wasn't 2017, or else it would have had a lot of talk at our Game Awards. But yeah, Owlboy, which personally I was not following. Like, I know it had a very storied development history prior to coming out. Like, it had been known for many years before, and then it was made by just a couple people, and it took them forever to actually put it out. So like, people thought it was dead, and like there was just this like failed thing. But eventually it finally came out, and like I said, I had no knowledge of that history, so I just played it. I think it was during my Extra Life stream that year, just like randomly, and played through the entire thing in one sitting, and was like super blown away by it. Because like artistically, it's really fantastic. Like, it's a really beautiful style, and the gameplay is really interesting. Like, it's not typical. Like, it controls very strangely, but once you get used to it, it actually feels like amazing. It's kind of a Metroidvania, and like the ways that it blocks you off feel like somewhat natural. Like, it's more about like you're actually learning things about the world which permit you to go to the other areas, more so than like you're just unlocking some arbitrary ability or something like that. And it had a surprisingly good story. Like, everything about that game is super, super well done. But like, I feel like very few people talked about it. And if they did, like, they only got like 20 minutes in. They're like, oh, I'll come back to this. So like,
that's what I did. Ooh. It's
Yeah.
one of those games where I've always kind of wanted to get back to it, because it just like, it looks very cool and it's a very neat game, but I didn't really put much time, more than like an hour or two. So
yeah, like,
I heard it was difficult.
Todd Howard heard so as well, but it gets hard, and some of the side challenges can be super difficult, but the core story I wouldn't say is crazy hard.
Okay. Doesn't it have like some really like unique movement stuff because you can fly? So are you flying through most of the levels, or is it more just like walking along with some occasional gliding or stuff like that?
Most of it is flying. Like, you're doing flying like 80% of the time. And it's really funny because it is technically a dual joystick shooter, and the way it works, the way you shoot, quote unquote, is that you're flying around while holding your friend, and your friend is actually the gun.
Okay.
Yeah. So depending on who you're holding, it gives you different guns.
Okay. So you're an owl. Who are your gunner friends?
Oh, I can't even remember.
Okay.
I remember Alphonse or something is his name, I think.
Are they like other animals, or
no? I think
like anthropomorphic things.
No, there's Alphonse and there's Getty. Getty is the main guy, and he's just a dude. And Alphonse is like some like robot pirate.
Big suit of armor.
Kind of like he's hard to describe. He's really cool though.
Okay.
He's a fat boy.
Wow. Well, yeah, that Owlboy is one that I saw and was like, oh, that looks neat. And then it just, for whatever reason, it never made it into my rotation. It came out in November, so it was like a busy time. Right after Titanfall 2.
Yep.
So that might have been one of the reasons that it did not catch on. But you know, the indie games have like a much different audience than something like Titanfall 2.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, it's hard to say why some of these games are underappreciated. Do you have any other games that you think are underappreciated, Alex?
I mean, I really like The Missing Still. I think that still doesn't get much talk, but it is a very flawed game. It's like
Yeah, those controls are ass.
yeah, but like I think that's a factor of it being like a work of genius with a shoestring budget.
Yeah, I think that game is not enjoyable to play at all, but also has one of the best like stories in a game of the decade, probably. So I do think it's interesting that it hasn't been discussed more.
Yeah, I just think like there are certain like moments in terms of visuals, in terms of the sound that I still think about because they're just really powerful. And I personally didn't have as many issues with playing it, but that is definitely the weakest link in terms of a really otherwise beautiful experience.
Yeah. And again, I think like the controls being bad and like some of the puzzles being a little mediocre is a factor of it having like no budget. Because like that game was made with nothing.
There are just like there are control choices they made that are not not great, and I feel like could have been easily averted. Maybe I'm no programmer, but it's it's a very good story, and I am also surprised it doesn't kind of get more attention.
Yeah, and one from our chat that has come up is Sleeping Dogs.
Yes.
Oh yes.
Sleeping Dogs rules. That combat is still awesome. I am sad we never got Sleeping Dogs 2.
Yeah.
I actually would go so far as to say that I think that game is better than any Grand Theft Auto game.
Oh, 100%.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah, agreed.
It is better than any Grand Theft Auto game for sure.
Yeah.
I love that you don't get guns or use guns really for like the majority of the game because they're illegal in Hong Kong. And so it just makes it more realistic and like makes it more challenging and makes you actually engage with the combat way more.
And like
and I actually care about the story and the characters.
Yeah.
And it's a really in terms of like the open world kind of city, I feel like it's really, really great to get around, and it makes me want to go to Hong Kong and eat all the food because for some reason all the food just makes me so hungry in that game.
Riding a motorcycle down the street and then you do a wheelie and then jump off a car and just rocket through the air.
Yeah, there's some cool
stuff. Driving controls are amazing.
Food.
The driving controls are incredible, and then the world feels like so vibrant in a way that even a lot of like GTA 5 has probably the most technically impressive city that I've seen in a game that I can think of anyway. But like I would rather play Sleeping Dogs story again than play GTA 5 again because it's just so much, it feels more alive to me. And it's really cool.
And like the combat felt like really weighty, and it also had all those like environmental interactions you could do.
Those were fun.
And it's like
throw people on like a marlin spike.
Not that I'm trying to like cast any amount of shade because they're all amazing games as well, but it almost like out Yakuza sometimes in the of like having a rich story, being an open experience, and I mean it's less of an RPG than Yakuza is, but like some of that stuff, I think playing Sleeping Dogs is kind of what prepped me to be like want to play Yakuza because it gave me an appreciation for that kind of like the like melee and crime story stuff.
Totally. Yeah. The only problem I ever had with Sleeping Dogs was all those chase sequences. Like I think didn't the game open with a chase sequence?
Yeah, it was pretty early on.
Yeah, but like I think that was literally my only problem with the game. Everything else was awesome.
And like the parkour was good enough where like if you didn't screw up, it felt really cool. Yeah. But then it has the same problem that every game chase sequence does, where if you screw up, then you have to do it again. That's not fun.
Yeah, for sure.
This makes me want to go replay Sleeping Dogs.
You should go play that spooky Ghost DLC.
I literally just bought Sleeping Dogs Definitive Edition for PS4 last week.
Yeah.
Well, you know what happens when a dog sleeps?
They
You
fart?
watch it. You watch the dogs.
Oh God.
What if we watch the dogs when I don't have a baby? Sorry, because he might start crying.
Oh,
Okay, that's
so
fair.
cute.
Little Todd Howard is asleep. We'll let him sleep for the moment. But I needed to make that segue. I
Yep.
couldn't let it hang.
It was good.
But it was a swing and a miss, much like stormtroopers always miss when they fire at the heroes of Star Wars Battlefront 2.
Depends on what stormtroopers it is. Iden
my
Verso never misses.
Did you watch that video that I sent to our group chat?
No, I haven't had a chance.
No, I haven't.
Which
but
is
I
like,
want to.
it's 20 something minutes and it's every stormtrooper in all of the Star Wars movies.
Oh, I gotta watch
Amazing.
that.
Yeah, well, I will watch it. I haven't watched the new Mandalorian yet either. Those are
Oh,
both.
neither have I. Woo.
I'm 2 weeks behind.
I watched episode 3 last night instead, and that movie would never end because I was so done by the end of it. I was just like, well, it was like that moment where you like go, oh, it's almost done, and it's like hour and 15 minutes left, and you're like, what?
How about that moment where you go, oh man, episode 3 was the best of the prequels. This is going to be great. And then you realize that actually episode 1 was the best of the prequels all along. And that episode 3 is very bloated and has a lot of overacting and still has Hayden Christensen in it.
Oh my God. And then all the like meme moments happen early. So you're just like, that's all I got to look forward to is hello there or
the episode
Darth
1.
Plagueis the Wise, or
The episode 1 memes are better, like sand.
No,
That's
episode 2.
Yeah.
Oh, that's episode 2. Well, whatever.
Episode 2 is
That is my favorite Star Wars meme.
Episode 2, that is a good meme. Episode 2 is by a very wide margin the worst Star Wars movie.
it is so bad. Oh my
So
God.
bad.
Oh my God.
But have you seen The Last Jedi?
Oh God, we're not doing
So what game is underrated, huh?
my pick for underrated game. It's not that I have an argument for why it's the most underrated, but the game that came to mind when I thought of underrated games is Star Wars Battlefront 2.
I mean, there's a very good reason for it being underrated.
/ appreciated.
Can anyone tell me what the problem with the loot boxes was? Does anyone know what it was?
It had like, it was basically pay to win stuff. There was a lot of like progression stuff locked in those, and if you had that,
didn't it cost like $2,000 to get every character or something?
So the problem was that it was the thing that was being kept behind loot boxes were gameplay mechanic like centric things like weapons or abilities or things like that. And then
did make you could get perks that would let you like aim down the sights 0.08 seconds faster,
which were also consumables. But the other issue was that if you wanted to unlock like major characters, this is at launch. If you want to like launch like you want to play Darth Vader, you didn't want to pay any money, you had to play like 2,000 hours of that game. Like, so technically you could have unlocked it, but like they want you to pay money.
The first part of this that I think is interesting, and I'm kind of glad that this happened because it led to a general shift to making everyone made sure that their loot boxes only had cosmetic stuff, but the stuff that was in those loot boxes was not that bad. I mean, like, putting anything gameplay in loot boxes sucks. So again, I'm not like trying to mount a defense for like pay to win, but like when I finally got around to playing Battlefront, it became very clear that like a few people who played it were like, this has pay to win stuff. And then that got amplified by the industry and like blasted out. And people just started shitting on that game who had never touched it and didn't actually have any idea what was in the loot boxes. And yeah, I mean, like, again, not good. I'm not like trying to defend it, but it also was not. It was like.
Did you go to Did you start playing the game when it came out? I thought you came
a few weeks after it came out.
Well, because they very quickly like adjusted the
model. Yeah.
So when I started playing it, it still had the stuff in the loot boxes,
but
it is.
Oh, sorry. Please go for it.
They had adjusted the prices of the characters to be way lower, but they hadn't changed the way the loot boxes worked yet. And so like when I started playing it, it was very much like I had this moment of like, wow, this is like the thing that caused the whole industry to melt down. Again, I could totally see it coming up as like, wow, this sucks. This is stupid. They should change this. But the way that the entire industry like ground to a halt to make sure that no one ever played Battlefront 2, it was like, for this? Wow. Okay.
Well, the thing
There's
is
like way more egregious shit in Korean MMOs and stuff. Like,
yeah, but the thing is that in North America, this was like a game that was relatively targeted at kids, and this ended up being kind of the catalyst that brought the whole conversation literally to court and like started getting loot boxes banned in Europe and stuff like this.
Which is why I think it's good that it happened. I just wish people had opened an app on their iPhones prior to this. Like, this stuff has been
totally. Yeah.
So baked into games before this. And I think it's interesting that Battlefront, and I think it was a combination of the license, huge game.
And that Reddit comment.
I would say that I don't think it's, I'm surprised that people would, one, like encourage their kids to play it. And two, I'd be surprised if a kid played it and was like, I want to play more of this, because it's a pretty complicated game. It's not like it's, I can see like middle schoolers being super into it, but like, it's not like it's complex in ways that I was not really, that's not fair. I was playing pretty complex games when I was a kid, and maybe kids still are, but a lot of the games that I hear and see kids talking about are a little less complicated. But anyway, all that stuff launched up aside. Ultimately, it did suck, so I'm glad it changed. But over time, that game has just been like, they're still developing it. There's still stuff coming out for it next year, with a relatively small but big enough to find games easily player base. That game has like soared. The single player content in that game is awesome. It is like a really interesting Star Wars story set around really interesting characters. Excuse me. Alex showing a video of a dog eating something. Yeah. It is the Inferno Squadron characters that they introduced are really cool. I guess it's a pretty standard Star Wars story of like a character is a bad character and then they turn good. But they did some cool story DLC stuff that they never got to continue because of the issues that game had, but that like tied its story in with The Force Awakens. It was a really cool thing. And from a multiplayer perspective, like, it's definitely the best Battlefront game. And like, people would come at me for that, who super love Battlefront 2, like the old Battlefront 2.
Yeah.
But it's a better game than that game.
It seems like it.
And they changed the way a lot of the bad stuff from the first DICE Battlefront game worked and fixed it, to the point where now, I mean, it's like, it is, I think like Jedi is a better game personally, and I like playing through Jedi more, but Battlefront 2 is like Star Wars in game form more than any other video game maybe ever made, because you can do all of the Star Wars in it. If you want to do lightsaber duels, you can do it. If you want to do space battles, you can do it. If you want to do big, huge ground battles, you can do it. It has like every Star Wars thing. And it's across every era now. It has like every major hero character in it. They have like,
how much sand does it have?
Oh, there's a lot of sand, let me tell you.
Okay.
It has multiple sand maps. It has like, you know, if you want to play small scale, a squad of stormtroopers with Boba Fett versus a squad of rebels with Han Solo and Tatooine, you can do that. If you want to play like a MOBA like, not MOBA like, that's not fair, but like a more complex objective based thing with hero characters that have abilities that interact, that's in there too. And so like, and then there's also like multiplayer space battles that you can play. So I don't know. I think it's surprising to me that game didn't get the, like, people didn't go back to it and go, wow, this is great. Kind of to say, like, I think that at launch, it was a better playing game than something like Rainbow Six Siege was at launch. Obviously, Siege didn't have quite the same degree of pay to win stuff, although Siege had a pretty bullshit Like you could buy the starter edition and then all of the characters are more expensive forever than if you had just bought the regular version of the game. So Siege had its own bullshit. And I think it's interesting that Siege, which is a phenomenal game, got all of like the industry talking about how great Ubisoft is at supporting their games. Meanwhile, like Battlefront justifiably caught a lot of shit and has become a really, really good game in the time since, and no one ever talks about it, like ever. So yeah, I don't know.
Do you think that's a factor of it being an EA game and people hating EA?
Yep, absolutely. And I think it's an example of like, don't get me wrong,
or advertising after the fact,
maybe, but I don't know. I don't know that Siege, I guess I don't really watch like mainstream TV enough to know how much advertising and stuff Siege gets, but I feel like I only really see stuff for Siege when there's like new content coming for it. So I don't know. And I feel like they did kind of Star Wars, like Battlefront, they publicized the like year of the Clone Wars pretty heavily when that started. So I don't know. Maybe it's a marketing thing, but I do think that it's because people hate EA, and I'm not saying that they shouldn't, because massive AAA publishers, you should be very skeptical of them, like EA and Activision more than anyone else. That said, again, to make the Ubisoft comparison, it's like Ubisoft is a massive publisher that does a ton of bullshit too. And so I think it's interesting how gamer perceptions go, because people have a much rosier view of Ubisoft than they do of other companies because of what Ubisoft's been able to do to like keep its image pretty clean. And like Ubisoft has become known as the company that puts out quite like kind of meh games and then fixes them. So it's the whole thing is very interesting to me. And I think, you know, you should probably, if you like Star Wars, you should play Battlefront 2. You should at least play through the campaign, get the game and do that.
It's really interesting because as an outsider looking in, I never played it, but like it seems like people always talked about how everything surrounding the game was total garbage, like we were talking about at the start of this whole little segment here. But the game itself seems pretty great. Mm-hmm. Like playing it feels good, and it looks good, and it sounds good. So,
but I can't have a pink Darth Vader, so.
There's a lot of cosmetics though now. It's pretty cool. I mean, it's not like League levels of it, but like you can play.
I can't have a Versace Darth Vader.
No, there's no Versace Darth Vader. But there's like Kylo Ren with his helmet on and Kylo Ren with his helmet off.
What does he look like? Is he burned? Is it horrific? Wait, can I be Kylo Ren with his shirt on or shirt off?
I don't think they have. What is he called canonically? What is big Kylo Ren called? Is it just big Kylo Ren?
Bigger Kylo?
Biggest Luke?
I do think that they should have made one of the Luke skins like just a bit taller.
Just a little bit.
So yeah, I don't know. I don't have a lot of other thoughts other than that's a very good game and more people should play that game.
If you were going to put one character from The Mandalorian in it, which one would you put?
Baby Yoda.
Amy Sedaris.
Amy Sedaris. Just Amy Sedaris.
Warner Herzog.
Well, I feel like Baby Yoda wouldn't. If you put Baby Yoda in that game, you'd have to watch Baby Yoda die.
A lot.
A lot.
No, because he just used the Force. And
I mean, technically the characters never die. Like if you kill a hero character, they just like kneel down.
Yeah. Heroes never die.
Yeah.
I didn't know we were talking about Overwatch again.
But that said, I don't want to watch Baby Yoda get shot by blasters. So no Baby Yoda. I guess like
Warner Herzog.
No, I think what is her name? What is Carla's character's name? I can't remember because they don't do a good job of but she would be cool because she does like martial arts stuff.
The mercenary lady.
Yeah.
Oh, Ming is played by Ming-Na Wen?
No.
The MMA fighter lady that's in Haywire.
That was the
what's her name?
Welcome to Gaming Fix, where we go,
Yeah, the second highest build character in the show before the show came out, who was on stage when it was announced that none of us can remember the name of.
Amy Sedaris.
I don't know. Whatever.
Gina Carano?
Thank you.
Yes,
Gina,
we're all thinking of Gina Carano. Have been for some time.
All I could think of, I called her Carla because all I could think of was Carla Gugino. Because they have similar names.
I have definitely got those two confused before, and I don't even think it was name related. I think it's because they looked semi-similar in one film I saw.
Anyway, yes. Gina Carano's character is who I would want in Battlefront 2 because she does martial arts and there aren't like...
What if...
She does MMA and stuff, and that would be interesting to see how that would work.
What if it was Gina Carano's character from Fast and Furious 7? Six.
I don't know. I don't remember her character from that movie.
Or Deadpool.
So like, what if in Fast and Furious 9 they go to space and then Baby Yoda's there?
It would make more sense. I guess it would make the most sense to put Deadpool in Battlefront 2 because his whole thing is like breaking the fourth wall, and they're both owned by Disney. So
yeah.
Oh god, there's a lot of Disney characters you could put in there, but we can't.
But you can't because Deadpool is the only one that
you gotta put Sora in Battlefront 2.
Oh. There you go.
Punished
That's
Venom Mickey.
Okay.
So yeah, Battlefront 2 is a good game.
Yes, and it's like $20 MSRP. So
wow.
And it's on EA Access, so if you own a PlayStation 4, you probably haven't had the EA Access trial. So you could play Battlefront 2 right now for free, I expect.
Yep, and probably play through the campaign because it's not very long. Yeah.
All right. Well, you know what happens when dogs sleep? You watch them.
A watchdog never sleeps.
Oh, it's true. They do. That is a phrase that people say.
So I'm not here to talk about Watch Dogs, one of the worst games I've ever played. I'm here to talk about, for some reason, a game that I decided to play, Watch Dogs 2. So Watch Dogs 2 was my game of the year in 2016, so the year before we started working together. Basically, you play as a young hacker who is kind of just making his way into the world of San Francisco, called Marcus Holloway, and you eventually join up with DedSec and start hacking. He's like, "You're talking, Dad. Don't talk." Did anyone play Watch Dogs 2?
I picked it up this year on your recommendation. I didn't get super far. Just like at this point in my life, I don't know if I'm like into that like style of open world game, like the Grand Theft Auto-ish style. I got to the part where you defraud the guy and like, "I'm Bobo Dakes" over the phone using like a soundboard. That was pretty funny.
This is very good.
But just like playing it wasn't really doing it for me.
I think that's part of, I played more than that. I got into the stuff where you start like doing the insurance stuff where you're like sort of taking revenge on the insurance companies. And I like a lot of what that game does narratively. I didn't love how the driving felt, and I didn't really love how the shooting felt. And when it came down to it, I felt like it's funny because like a lot of what that game employs for its missions are like sequences where you have to like move your take a drone and fly it through vents or something and activate a button or something like that. I think that stuff is really cool and far more interesting than just like shootout after shootout after shootout than a car chase.
Yes.
Thing is, I still found those missions to get really repetitive, and it was hard for me to like stay invested. But I don't know how much of that is a problem with the game and how much of that is what you're saying, Andre, where like I just don't know if I want games like that anymore in like cities like that.
Yeah.
Because
I mean, we just talked about how great Sleeping Dogs is, and like That's an open world city crime game type thing.
Yeah, I think because the your fists do the talking.
Yes.
Like I think it's just the structure of the game is much more like you get into melee battles and then you drive around this really cool city, whereas Watch Dogs is, in a cool way, Watch Dogs 2 is much more about interacting with the environment and the city. But I don't know how much of that I want to do anymore. So I don't know. I can't put my finger. I don't think that Watch Dogs. I think Watch Dogs 2 is a great pick for this because I do think that it was underrated and I do think it's a really good game. But it's also hard for me to like get into it. I would like to finish it before Legion comes out. And like one thing I'll say about Watch Dogs 2 that's great is the characters and story are so memorable that like I could start playing it again today, having not done so in 4 months. And I feel like I would be able to jump right back into my save because I remember everything that happened because it has really, really good writing, really, really good characters, really good performances. It's also like one of the most diverse casts of characters in a AAA game that I've ever seen, which is incredible. Like lots of people of color, lots of people who are not neurotypical. I don't know how, I can't remember how much of it is like if there's good LGBTQ representation, but I feel like there's a couple of characters at least. So yeah, that part of it's really cool. And it turns out that having a super diverse cast of characters makes it a lot easier to pay attention and be invested in a story for me. So that is
remember who the characters are because you got like there's 7
bunch of white faces. Yeah. So I think that is like super one of its strengths. And I am intrigued to play Legion. And also I'm just going to say it again because I'm going to say it every time this game comes up. Ubisoft now has a pretty damn good map of San Francisco and the surrounding areas. You just polish that up a bit,
too.
Put some more rails in there, and you got Steep 2. San Francisco's got a lot of hills, so Steep name makes sense. You can make it the summer games, skateboarding, street lugeing, base jumping.
Base jumping.
I don't think anything in San Francisco is tall enough for base jumping.
Yeah, maybe Coit Tower. Maybe Coit Tower, and that's it.
Sure, you could jump off the top of the Golden Gate Bridge.
I mean, you can jump off anything.
it's a video game. You can fudge it. But I'm just saying, Ubisoft is welcome to give me a call. I'd be happy to direct Steep 2 set in San Francisco.
But
Steep 2 summer game.
So speaking of Steep 2 summer games in San Francisco, what like made it your game of the year, Sam? Like over any other game that came out in 2016?
It's just like the most fun that I had playing a video game that year. So like the best cast of characters, like Pat was saying, I think the cast of characters was really good. It also had there were no downturns. So like Final Fantasy 15 came out that year, and that probably would have been my game of the year if it wasn't for the absolutely atrocious Chapter 13. And you got a similar issue, like Watch Dogs 2 didn't really have that issue. It just kept going, and like the story was really cool. All of the side quests were good. I did every single one. And I really liked that it wasn't a stealth game about not getting spotted, because there's a lot of stealth in the game. It's less about not getting spotted and more about doing stuff while people aren't paying attention. So like I don't think for the latter half of the game, I think I barely went into the mission area as Marcus. I was doing everything with drones. And like being able to do stuff like go through a secure facility, use the taser attached to my drone to knock out all the guards, and then just walk through without setting off any alarms, or like sprint at full speed through these areas that should be like absolute minefields. That's cool. I also only killed one character in the game, and that was by mistake, switching to the wrong weapon. Like I never picked up or used a lethal weapon at all in the game. I think that's really awesome. That's definitely something that I want to see more from games.
Lethal weapon? Was Mel Gibson in it?
So you can make your own games. You can make your own guns. You can 3D print them. And you can 3D print like all these non-lethal weapons. and they're really, really cool and really fun to use. So I was just constantly like, I had like a taser, and then I had like a taser rifle, and I was just out there tasing everybody, never actually killing anyone. I literally killed one guy, and it was like, I think I'd run out of ammo for everything non-lethal, and I couldn't do anything but shoot him. And like, I really love the drone stuff. And like Watch Dogs 1 was a game that I was so excited for and so disappointed by.
Yeah.
And then Watch Dogs 2, like I know, Pat, you guys were saying you didn't like the driving that much, but like it's really, really arcadey and fun. Especially when you get like super fast cars and you're like there's one of the missions where you get like a Knight Rider car, and you're driving the Knight Rider car down all those crazy hills in San Francisco and doing like a giant leap and then sliding down the road, like down the monorail, cable car tracks and stuff. And it's just like, it's a really cool world as well. Like San Francisco's got so much personality as a city that it's really easy for that game to have a world with a lot of personality.
Totally.
But yeah, what if I could strap a bunch of boxes to my back and just walk across a barren wasteland very slowly instead?
That sounds like a game for me.
It's so bizarre. Like it's so bizarre to me that I play Watch Dogs 2 and I'm like, yeah, like it's interesting, but I'm not enjoying playing it. And then I play like Death Stranding. I'm like, oh man, I'm loving this. Oh no, I'm falling over. I gotta pull the right trigger. Like
there's intangibles of Death Stranding that are make it hard to
but it's just like a weird place to be with like games where I'm like, what I think I should like, I'm not liking.
I think it might be just because like Watch Dogs 2 is an exceptionally crafted open world game. It's like probably one of the heights of the Ubisoft formula. Like that started with Far Cry 3. Yeah. And if you played every game from Far Cry 3 until Watch Dogs, maybe it's a little saturated for you, whereas Death Stranding is like something totally unique. So maybe that's something to do with it.
I don't play every Ubisoft game, especially more recently. Like I play like one every now and then, but I respect what they're doing. It's just their games haven't been doing it for me.
Yeah, but I mean, like you played Grand Theft Auto and Saints Row and all that kind of stuff.
I haven't played Grand Theft Auto since 4.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
I do actually. I think that Watch Dogs 2 is probably the best GTA style game over Sleeping Dogs. Although Sleeping Dogs is like this close, and I think the story is better in Sleeping Dogs and the combat is better. But I feel like the cohesive whole of Watch Dogs 2 is more fun for me. And I like how silly Watch Dogs 2 is.
It is very silly and fun.
Yeah. And I think that might be. Sorry, just not to interrupt, but I think that the reason why Andre doesn't like it versus Death Stranding is that Watch Dogs 2 is fun and good.
I don't understand it either. I still don't know why I like Death Stranding. It's just, interesting, like to look at these like two different open world games that are very different, and like one is so focused on being like a fun adventure with wacky stuff, and the other one's very serious and like we're gonna punish the player and put very mechanics heavy, systems heavy. More normally I hate those kinds of games, but I love Death Stranding and Watch Dogs 2. I'm like, oh yeah, I played that a little bit.
The part where you steal a car from a movie and then that is just a prop car, but then your squad actually like kits it out with all the stuff from the movie. And then you go on a crazy like car journey, like chase through all of San Francisco and Oakland with tons of police helicopters and cars chasing you, deploying like oil slicks and like jumping off of things and having flames come out the back of the car. Like that mission is amazing.
That was the one I was talking about, the Knight Rider car. It's called like Night Driver or something.
Yeah.
It's so good.
I think that's right before where I stopped, or that's
It's probably right around there. Yeah.
I stopped right before that, I think.
A lot of that stuff is great. I didn't mechanically, like, those sequences didn't do as much for me, but like conceptually it's really, really cool.
Yeah.
And I definitely, it's a plan. I have to finish it before Legion comes out, because I actually don't think Legion is going to be as good as Watch Dogs 2, because I don't think they're going to capture the same lightning in the bottle feeling, but I do want to play Legion. I expect it'll be fine. And there aren't a lot of those games being made anymore. So
I think the reason why I think it's not going to catch as well is that one of the best things about Watch Dogs is how good the cast is. And like, the cast could be anyone in Legion, so it's going to be really hard for them to have a good, engaging story. I think what they're going to rely on with that game is a really, really good mechanics and a fun world to play in. But that's not what I want really from a Watch Dogs sequel.
I still think that either they're going to put a character in that is like, maybe you don't control them or something, but they're like
armor.
Yeah, I think either they're gonna like kind of blow everyone's minds and nail that like unique characters thing, and like you really will play it for 30 hours or whatever and not see repeated characters, and they'll all be interesting. I think that's less likely than them. There's some characters in there that are just like, oh man, the story characters. You just don't play as them.
Speaking
of the central character is meant to be the AI that gives them all instructions.
Yeah, they say a lot of that
is actually going to be a person. It's going to be a Wizard of Oz. Don't look behind the curtain.
Beyond that too, like Ubisoft has a habit of like saying that there's these grand narrative concepts in their games, and then when it comes out, it's kind of like, oh, well, you actually just did this, which is part of what makes Watch Dogs 2 impressive, because it doesn't do that. It, in fact, just delivers a very good story with very good characters.
Speaking of games with very good stories and very good characters and lots of very good stories in which you have almost zero chance of escaping from, Allison.
Oh, okay.
Wait, before we get to Allison.
I was like not expecting that at all.
But that's nice, Alex. Before we get there, I do want to take a moment, and I want each of us to shout out a game from our giveaway that we're fans of. I personally am a fan of Resident Evil 2. It's probably my favorite game this year.
Also, a hard game that is extremely mechanics heavy. So I don't know if I believe.
I don't think it's that hard.
You also like Dark Souls.
I think that whole thing is bullshit that you said.
Maybe.
I think you like mechanics heavy hard games, and Resident Evil 2 is a hard game. I understand for you it's not hard.
I mean, maybe if you're a baby.
Welcome to Call Me a Baby. I am playing Death Stranding on hard. Thank you very much.
I did not want to bother with that.
So Resident Evil 2 for Andre.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Resident Evil 2, and you could be a lucky owner of Resident Evil 2 as well if you go to the @FixPodcast Twitter page and enter our drawing. Pat, what game from our giveaway are you a fan of?
Oh, so many.
Well, pick one.
But the one that I'll pick to highlight for now is Slay the Spire, which I think is one of the best games of the year, in fact. And I think that it is a delightful entry into the kind of roguelike. It's both a delightful roguelite and also a delightful card game. And for people who have not played a lot of card games and who do that thing that is baffling to me, where they say, I don't know much about card games. I don't know if I can play this because I don't know anything about card games. It's a great game to play because it is single player and very good. And you can die as many times as you want to, I guess. That's a bad way to put it. But you'll just be unlocking new cards and seeing new stuff.
Great. Pat. No, not Pat. Sam.
I mean,
it's 12:30.
There are two BattleTech games on that list that
Sam.
So I'd like to talk about one of the best games of the year, Control. So
we can't
basically
do this now.
We can do it now. We can do it in 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
We're gonna do it in 2 weeks either way.
We can litigate it in 2 to 3 weeks time. But Control is one of my favorite games of the year. It's a game with so much style, which also has like, I watched the Game Awards yesterday, and the trailer for all the new Control content. I'm just watching Jesse like flying around, shooting, using telekinesis, and I was like, that was an extremely cool set of abilities in a game. I would probably say there's no game that I have played where I use all the abilities on the tree, except Horizon, where I was using like all the weapons they give you. I tried every single one, and they were all useful. And that I would say with Control. So if you're looking for a good video game to pick out of this pack, and you don't hate the Epic Game Store, then Control is one I would highly, highly recommend.
You know what? I'd recommend Control even if you do hate the Epic Game Store. Get over it.
All these
Everybody should get over it.
Everybody should get over it.
All of our games we're giving away, save one, are PC, Steam, or Epic Game Store games. We do have one that is on PS4, Spirit of the North. But Allison, which of the games that we're giving away has a special place in your heart?
Well, Pat stole mine with Slay the Spire, which is one of my favorite games of the year, and definitely something that I will be bringing up in a couple of weeks, at least as part of my personal top 10 list. But
there's support for that game. Don't you worry.
Yeah.
I reviewed that game 5 stars, I think, out of 5.
Yeah.
Good. But the other one that that we haven't talked about yet is Baba Is You, which I really, really like. I don't know if I'm very good at it because I feel like it's hard, but
it's very hard.
Okay, thank you.
I'm so bad at that game.
I need to play a little bit of that before gaming.
But it is one of the most interesting puzzle games of recent years, and it's basically because you're adjusting the rules of the game as you're playing the game. Totally. So you're because all of the rules for like what you are, like, for example, Baba Is You. Baba is the player character. You can change it to be that Wall is you, so you're just moving around as a giant wall, which is what I did a lot. You can what defines the winning situation is in there too. So you can say wall is win, and you walk into the wall and you did it. There's just it's hard, and it's something that I keep thinking I want to get back to because I played a decent amount of it, but I know there's quite a bit more. But it is one of the more unique games of the year, so I'm very excited for whoever hasn't played it but will get to play it.
A game is no game has made me feel as stupid as Baba
I know. Me too. But
that's just what I need.
Despite that, I still really like it. Like, despite it making me feel really dumb, I still would recommend Baba Is You.
Like, I've been on puzzles. I'm like, there's only like 3 things that I could possibly do, I feel like, and none of them do what I need them to do. I don't know what's happening. Baba Is You, that's a good pick, Allison. Alex, how about for you?
Well, we have a big list and lots to choose from here, Andre.
Yeah,
boy, there's lots of games that people could be getting from this great giveaway. But
lots of great games.
Yeah, but the one I would pick actually would probably be Heart of the Woods out of those.
I knew it. I should have put money on it.
Because it is a visual novel. It's great, but it's an independently made one with really awesome art and a really just unique story, which I won't spoil because it's worth going in blind. It's a very, very unique story, and it comes from authors who are very steeped in the LGBTQ community. Like, the writers are trans, they are queer. There's lots of representation of that community in that game, and it does it in a really lighthearted but also really serious way. But it's a really fun story. Like, even though it goes serious places, like, it's also really silly and has some of the best one-liners I can think of from this year.
All right. Well, there you have it. Those are some of 5 of the 19 plus games that we've got to give away. if you are not on Twitter and you'd like to have a chance at getting one of these games, if you email gaming@fix.space and tell us either, you send us either a picture of Jeff Keighley's butt or tell us what your underrated game, what you think is the most underrated game of the 2010s is and why.
Letting people not send the butt is cowardice, Andre.
You can send the butt. We'll count your entry if you send the butt.
No, he's saying that they should have to send the butt.
Maybe we double up your entry if you send a butt.
Oh God.
No, you don't.
No.
But
No
but
ifs or buts.
You may either or both send us your most underrated game of the decade and talk about it, or send a picture of Jeff Keighley's butt.
Or most underrated butt of the decade.
Oh yeah.
I don't want to sift through those, but sure.
Well, Alex is the main person.
Baby Yoda.
Email, so
we've never even seen Baby Yoda's butt. That's also weird.
Does Baby Yoda have a butt?
I mean, everything has a butt.
Does Yoda have a butt?
We have gone down this giant rabbit hole that I don't know.
Well, if you finish Jedi Fallen Order,
we see
Yoda's butt. Or if you watch the EA Super Bowl advert.
It was a bold move to show that in the Super Bowl commercial.
God. Also, fun story. Baba's You is only 75 megabytes.
Yeah, no, it's a very tiny game,
but it's real fucking good.
And infuriating.
Game.
It also has I have
75 megabytes of make you feel stupid.
I have plenty of issues with Steam, the way Steam user reviews work, but I will say that it is rare that a game that has 99% positive reviews out of thousands of reviews is bad.
Yeah. Now we're going to talk about a game that I played last year, and I was blown away and enraptured. Allison, please tell us about 999.
Okay, do I have time to talk about both of my games that I
but we went into 999 before, so
yeah. So I wanted to bring up I feel like the entire Zeroscape Nonary Games group could be under this. However, the one that I decided to choose was the first one, 999, 9 hours, 9 persons, 9 doors. And I think that's partially because I think that more people should be playing the series, but then also because a lot of people are big fans of the second game in the series, Zero's Last Reward, which is for good reason, because that game's great. But I feel like 999 really got me hooked in the series as well. So it is basically a visual novel, but you are stuck in a or where there's 9 characters that are stuck on a ship and it's sinking, and they have to figure their way out through escape the room puzzles. And there's a lot of intrigue. There are multiple endings, and there's a lot of it's just one of those things where I never felt bored by the story elements, because I was just I thought it was always really interesting. All of the characters and story was really good, and then it just goes into some extremely weird stuff in terms of like various kind of science fiction type theory that I did not expect when I saw this game existed. It doesn't have quite as many of the big twists as Zero's Last Reward does. Virtue's Last Reward. But I think that the twists that do exist are really good. So it's one of those games where I feel like I'm in a constant state of wanting to go and replay that series, even though I only just played it actually near the start of the podcast, and I'm just like, I kind of want to get back to it because I just really liked the story, and everything about that series.
It's really widely available now too, because originally it was a DS game.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was originally a DS game. I played it as part of the Noner Games pack on Steam.
Yep.
But it's available on quite a few other consoles and
PlayStation
PS4 is where I played it.
I think iPhone even.
Really?
I think I'll look it up, but
if that is, I might have to just go buy that on my iPhone so that I can have that on my iPhone. But
it was on iPhone, but the app didn't get updated when Apple switched from 32 to 64-bit apps or something like that. So I owned it. I paid like £20 for it, and then I can't play anymore.
That's unfortunate.
Why are you doing this to me? But it's but in terms of availability, like especially if you have if you're playing it on Steam, it goes on sale quite a bit, and it comes with, especially the first pack comes with 2 really, really fantastic games. I got all the achievements for it, which I don't know for both of those games, which I don't. There aren't that many, but I don't.
If you do like the full route, if you do get like the true ending, you'll end up with all the trophies.
Yeah, and then also just there are a couple of other trophies as well, but but it's one of those things where I just devoured those games and loved them very much.
Yeah, I think 999 is mind-blowingly good.
It made me very sad when the third game was not as good.
Yeah.
I personally don't know if I agree, but I really like the third game, but I don't. But I know that's a pretty common argument that I've heard, is that people don't like it as much. But I still think that the series is worth giving a shot.
Yeah,
if you haven't.
Yeah, I think people should definitely check that out because it's got a lot of puzzle stuff and like mystery and just like bonkers story stuff. Where if you like really complicated, convoluted storytelling, that's a game for you.
There are still
flowcharts.
Oh my god, the flowcharts are a thing, and that's why I would actually recommend playing one of the Nonary games releases over the DS version. I actually haven't played the DS version. I kind of want to go and get it eventually, but it actually doesn't have a flowchart, which makes things a lot
god,
it's way tougher. That's where I played it
a lot tougher. And then doing replaying the story is less enjoyable. Whereas they very smartly realized with Virtue's Last Reward and then the re-release in the Notary Games pack is that, hey, if you're going to be having multiple playthroughs that kind of be necessary and be a big part of the game, then you should have that flow chart, which is wonderful.
Yeah, that the art in 999 is very unsettling to me. Like the character designs, the portrait art. I really don't like it.
There's one ending in 999 that still spooks me, and it's like because of the character design and like just the creep factor. It's the end, like the end of a lot of those routes is very unsettling. Yep.
And spooky. It does like the basic premise of it is you're trapped on a ship that is going to sink in 9 hours, and you're trying to escape with 9 other people. So yeah, that's
escape
highly
through 9 doors.
Yeah, you gotta escape through the 9 doors and make friends along the way. It'll probably be on sale this holiday. It always is. So
I bought it 2 years ago on PS4, the entire pack, and I was I started playing with my wife, and she really enjoyed it when we played the first 999 for about 2-3 hours, and she has never wanted to go back to it anytime I suggest it. So I think eventually I will take over and just play it, because I played AI and I played lots of Virtue's Last Reward but never finished it. So I think it's time for me to go play all of them. I think like a really quick diversion is something I forgot to mention. I'm currently playing Trails of Cold Steel, the Nihon Falcom JRPG, which is basically military Persona.
Are you playing the first one and then you're going to play 2 and then 3?
Yes, that is my plan. I've purchased 1 and 2.
Okay, Sam did play through Dragon Quest this year, so I think he's owed a modicum of. I think he might actually do this.
No, I'm not. I'm not saying I don't think he'll do it. I'm saying those games are like 80 hours long.
I have finished 4 JRPGs that were over 60 hours this year.
Yeah, I mad respect for that kind of dedication.
Neon Falcon basically announced they weren't going to develop them for the Switch, which is the one thing that I was waiting for. They're bringing 3 to the Switch, and someone was like, "What about 1 and 2?" And they're like, "No, it costs too much to put stuff on the Switch." So yeah, that was my comp that was making me wait to buy them. So I've bought 1 and 2 on PS4, and I will buy the 3rd one probably on the Switch because that's the easiest place to play a JRPG. But yeah, I'm really enjoying 1 so far, and I think that is probably going to be the most underrated games of the decade for me when I eventually finish them. And I'll be talking about them a lot next year, I expect.
All right. Okay, yeah. Wow. All these, I thought these games were like coming out over a long period of time, but they've all come out since 2015.
Also, we don't have to go on a huge tangent, but I only recently, Giant Bomb played Faxanadu on stream recently, which is a game I had heard of but didn't know anything about. And I started looking into that, I forget what it's called, like Dragon's Saga or Legend something, I don't know. But Legend of Heroes is part of that whole thing. The Trails of Cold Steel games are not, but I know they are technically Legend of Heroes offshoots.
Trails of Cold Steel and Legend of Heroes all take place on the same planet, but
so
Trails of Cold Steel is a different continent.
Okay, so I guess technically it's the same world then. I'm gonna find the image and share it with people, but holy shit, that series of games is the most convoluted, wow. And I don't have the time, but I want to go back to those games from 84 and start there and play all those games, because it is wild how much that series, it's the mainline series is 4 games, and then there's 37 side games.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Oh, you mean Kingdom Hearts?
But it's worse than Kingdom Hearts. It's now I see where Kingdom Hearts got the inspiration.
On the Neon Falcom Reddit, people are talking about the ideal order to play Trails of Cold Steel, and the majority of the posts are like, you should play the Legend of Heroes quadrilogy first. I was like, I don't have time to play 4 JRPGs that are not on consoles that I own to play 3 JRPGs that are on consoles that I own. And luckily, in every single thread, someone goes, look, you don't need to do this. You don't.
You know what you do need to make time to play? Dungeons of Dredmor.
Yeah, that's my other one that I wanted to bring. So one of the things that I was thinking about when this topic came up in our discussion is that one of the genres that had kind of a moment in the 2010s was the roguelike or roguelite genre, especially with indie games becoming increasingly more available and more playable. So a lot of them are particular favorites of mine. My most played game on Steam is The Binding of Isaac. My second most played game on Steam is The Binding of Isaac Rebirth. So I've played a lot of that, but I've also loved Rogue Legacy. I've loved Enter the Gungeon. I've loved, there's Spelunky. There's just so many really great games. But one that I don't think has been brought up as it in the kind of roguelike discussion is Dungeons of Dredmor, which I have put over 100 hours into. And it is I think just a really fantastic game that should have more of discussion about it, especially as we talk about things like roguelikes and roguelites.
Totally.
Because it's it's very much a roguelike in terms of you're going through a dungeon and you are it's randomly generated, often with you can turn on or off permadeath. But the thing that is, I think, really cool about Dungeons of Dredmor in particular is just how many options there are for customization. There are so many different classes that you can pick. There are so many different weapons you can find, so many things you can craft, that there's a really great feeling of discovery, even after you've played it for as many hours as I have, is to just wander around and find things.
Cool.
And discovery is kind of the thing that I think is really the most interesting of Dungeons of Dredmor, because just the couple of few times that I've when I was first playing it, there's just so many things where you're just wandering around and suddenly you open a door and a big text pop-up comes up and says Monster Zoo, and you realize, oh no, this is a giant room full of monsters. What did I just walk into? And there's just so many elements of humor as well. I think it's just one of those games where I've put so many hours into it, and I'm kind of constantly surprised that it's not discussed, especially as we kind of have a retrospective on the roguelike genre.
Yeah.
It's a good game. And it's, I think, kind of perennially at very, very cheap on Steam. So it's it's not something, so it's something that you could pretty cheaply pick up and then also put quite a few hours into. Yeah, it's $5 on Steam right now. The complete version is $7. So,
wow, breaking the bank. This guy's got some serious eyebrows.
Yep.
Oh yeah, he does.
Like,
yeah, it's awesome. I remember actually really enjoying that game too. The company that made it went on to make like one more game, I think.
Yeah, and then
the Clockwork Empire or something like that.
Yeah, and then they I think they folded, which is unfortunate because when you mentioned this, I
think the company still exists. I just don't think they're working on anything. They're actually based out of the city I live in.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Clockwork Empires did not. I did not find it particularly compelling, and I believe that it did get canceled.
Oh, really? I thought it came out.
Well, it did, but I believe they put it out as we can't work on this anymore.
Gotcha.
In May 2019, they confirmed that the company had ceased all operations.
Yeah,
okay.
It's kind of a sad story. Clockwork Empires was a really cool looking thing, and they just never figured it out. And then in 2016, they just kind of pushed it out the door and said they were done. So
that's unfortunate.
It was a bummer because I was hoping that there was some game that I was missing that I could pick up after thinking back on Dungeons of Dredmor. But after this, I may be reinstalling it and giving it another shot because
totally.
Well, I can say that it came out on July 14th, 2011. So you're welcome. It was a birthday gift to me that you got to enjoy. That sounds really neat. I had never heard of it until you brought it up. It looks surprisingly complicated.
It is
lots of menus and stats and stuff, I guess.
It's honestly, which is something that I don't always get into, where it's like just that level of complexity. But I feel like
when I was looking at this the Steam page, I was like, this doesn't look like a game I would associate with Allison.
It normally wouldn't, but I feel like it's especially like when you're picking classes, there are, I forget how many, but there, like when you first pick up, or rather than classes, you do skills, and there are 51 skills, which I just found out by looking it up. But you can actually randomize what skill that you use and use skills you use, so you can really just kind of jump in and try out wide variety of different builds and options. It's a good game.
All right, awesome.
I have a quick update. There are 78 games in the Falcom Dragon Slayer and related game series.
That is
78
games.
Why?
Starting with Dragon Slayer from 1984.
Why?
And the Legend of Heroes series, which are all 80-hour JRPGs, there's 23 of those.
Yeah.
And one hasn't even come out in the West yet. So Legend of Heroes Trails of Cold Steel 4 is out in Japan, but won't be out until next year.
But
or the year
also,
after.
if you look at these box covers, there's some of the fucking coolest shit. I want to play that. Look at that box cover for 1984's Dragon Slayer. I want to play that. That's fucking awesome.
Well, look forward to next year's Trails of the Legend of Heroes fix.
Dragon Slayer fix.
Yeah.
Sam and I are going back to 84. I'm gonna buy a Mister.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to doing another underappreciated games podcast in 10 years.
The most underappreciated games of 1984. Well, lucky for you, Alex, there's still one more game we can talk about, or a whole series, really, because I think the Dishonored series has been criminally underrated, especially like Dishonored 2. Dishonored 1 is also very good, but I feel like nobody talked about Dishonored 2 really. It came out in 2016, which was a very good game, a very good year for games. Watch Dogs 2, like Sam said, Titanfall 2, Owlboy. It was a good year for games. And like Titanfall 2, Dishonored 2 had a time travel level that operated in much the same way as Titanfall 2, which was like wild to experience, and then hear everyone talk about how crazy the Titanfall 2 level is. Be like, over in Dishonored 2, like, it's the same thing. It's the same mechanic.
Andre's second hill he will die on, apart from the Pokemon won't follow you in Sword and Shield hill.
Oh my god. Longtime listeners may remember I've discussed this exact thing. I think the Titanfall 2 level is great, and it does, like, the movement in that makes it like unique and different, but there's also like the movement mechanics and Dishonored make that really cool. But appropriately today, when I woke up, I looked at Twitter and I saw this thread about some just neat things about the Dishonored series. Like in the first Dishonored, this is from Vex Werewolf on Twitter. In the first Dishonored, if you switch the glasses so that Campbell drinks his own poison and then possess him, you die, and there's a special game over message for it. Because you can possess like NPCs.
Yeah.
There's a door code in the second game, which is always a date, and it actually has two combinations: day month and month day both work to unlock the door.
That's awesome. So
if you're wrong and use the incorrect month day organization, if you maintain a ghost or shadow run, so if you were unseen in the first game, your wanted poster never gets a sketch and just remains a silhouette with a question mark. And lastly, in Dishonored 2, there's the Clockwork Mansion, which is this really amazing feat of level design, where like the level is constantly moving and changing, and you can like use the moments where it's changing to like get outside the level and like get in like the mechanics of it and get around that way to like be sneaky. And there are clockwork soldiers in there who it's been like built by this inventor guy, and if you kill him and the clockwork soldiers find his body, they have unique voice lines for that, and they're using the guy's own voice, like the creator's voice. So he recorded voice lines for if his soldiers found his dead body, which is just like a really bizarre world building thing.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's the thing I've always loved about Dishonored, is just the intense attention to detail on like everything.
Yeah. like some people, I think you have even said like you think Dishonored 1 is better than 2, Alex, because of like some replayability stuff. Is that correct?
I think Dishonored 1 is more replayable. I don't know if I would say it's better.
Okay. Like, because Dishonored 2 does have like, you can play as like the 2 different characters, which gives you even more choices for like the abilities you can do. You can play as I can't remember the names, but you can play as the Queen, the Empress, Corvo, and then I can't remember the Empress's name. Maybe Emily, yeah.
Emily, I think, Caldwin.
I want to say Emily.
Emily Caldwin, yes, there we go. I love this game so much, but I can't remember the names of the people in it. But yeah, you can play as the either one of those characters in 2, and it will like you'll have different abilities depending on who you're playing as. Which is like a neat way to, let people approach the game in different ways. So more people should play the Dishonored games. I'm super excited for Deathloop from that studio for whenever that comes out. Yeah, from Arcane. So I imagine we'll hear about that at E3 next year.
I hope so.
7 months away. Yeah. If we don't, what are they doing?
Did you ever play like Thief or anything like that, or was Dishonored like your first real foray into stealthy kind of games?
I played Metal Gear Solid, but yeah, no, I don't think I'd played like Thief. I'm sure I don't know if there is anything really that I had played akin to that before. Nothing like jumps to mind, but it was like. Just like playing that first one was really cool, and like the abilities and being able to like jump blink really far and like assassinate people from the shadows and like hide the bodies was just really neat. And then trying to not kill people because like, well, I don't want the rats to get them and take over the city. So it's a real cool series. I'm sad that there won't be any more because I think with Death of the Outsider, they had like room to make the game like do something really cool with the game. Maybe they'll come back to the series eventually. But
I bet they will someday.
It's
whether it's Arcane cool making it and it's the thing you want, who knows?
Yeah,
I bet they will someday.
They set up so they could do pretty much anything they want with that series. Unless anyone has any other underrated games they just need to praise.
I don't have any underrated games, but I had some people ask like, why aren't you doing the best games of the decade or, the most important games of the decade? And that's a big conversation. And I think there's a Kotaku article that you should read because it's really good.
Yeah,
there are lots of great games. We're going to talk about some great games. Maybe you know what the secret is? These are the best games of the decade.
I like Battlefront 2. It is probably not one of the 10 best games of the decade.
No, I mean it's Dark Souls 3, and Bloodborne.
I'm currently knee deep in a Dark Souls playthrough, and I would be hard pressed to argue against it.
And the Surge, Lords of the Fallen.
What was that 2D one with the mice and stuff? Of Tales.
Hollow Knight?
No. Oh God, I can't remember it.
2D with the mice and stuff.
I don't think there's a Souls like that.
Give me a sec. I'm gonna look it up. But y'all should talk about that Kotaku article because it's really strong.
It's good. You should read it. I don't want to. I think it's better if you don't have full rundown.
Salt and Sanctuary.
Oh, it had mice in it.
Yeah, I didn't know there were mice things. Anyway, we're going to talk about good games. Everyone's talking about the most important games. I think no matter what you do, a lot of those lists are going to end up the same. Like Kotaku's list is a little more nuanced than maybe like an IGN list or like a Polygon list. And not that Polygons is.
I think the article we're specifically talking about too is the who wrote it? Jeremy
Joshua Rivera.
Gotcha, Joshua Rivera. Yeah, Joshua Rivera's
Rivera.
Something wrong with my brain and mouth. Josh Rivera's article is the decade in games in 5 games.
Yeah.
which is not, he says up top that it's not the best 5 games of the decade necessarily. It's not the most important 5 games of the decade necessarily, but it is a story of the gaming industry told over the course of 5 games. And I think it's important to read if you like video games.
Yep.
And for a lot of people, probably and hopefully, frankly, who don't listen to this podcast, who will never read it and take it to heart, it's important to internalize as well, because it has a lot of smart things to say about toxicity and the damage that has
state of the world.
Yeah, and the state and how the state of video games kind of mirrors that in some ways. So I think it's a phenomenal article, and I think it kind of overshadows all the best of lists that I read in terms of being powerful and making you really think about the decade.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think more than any decade before, like, games have changed a lot.
Oh, the industry has changed immensely.
I mean, games are games, but like the breadth of experiences available to players writ large is vastly different than it has been before.
And players have changed.
Yes.
At least what players are willing to say publicly has changed.
Who can make games, who's making the decisions, stuff like that.
And there's the rise of engines like Unity and Unreal, so anybody can make a game. And also the fact that I feel like even in the late aughts, you started seeing gaming becoming way more mainstream, but like it is completely an acceptable practice to be like a hardcore gamer these days. And it's like, like, I don't know, when I was a kid in, elementary school, that's not the kind of thing you would be super upfront about. I had to
play my PlayStation uphill in the snow both ways.
Not so much that, it's more that like, it's not something you publicly talked about. You're not like, oh man, I'm bringing all these games I played to class because people are going to think that's so cool. But like, because there was that stigma around it. And now every kid in the world is playing Minecraft and Fortnite, and it's just socially acceptable. So it is a different kind of landscape now versus like 10, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But I think the thing is that this article sounds like it's pretty political, and we're a games podcast.
Yeah.
So
it's very political.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hold the politics, please. So
I'm trying to get a job at The Escapist. Jesus.
Jeez.
Oh boy. Well, with that, we're gonna do a rundown of some of the news that happened over the last week, because boy, is there some surprising.
We don't have time to go through all of them.
We'll be quick with it.
I think the main thing that we should touch on is out of nowhere.
The monolith from 2001.
Yes, the monolith from 2001. The Xbox Series X had like an official unveiling at the Game Awards.
Yeah.
Jeff Keighley seems so giddy to be able to like go, hey, it didn't leak.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty impressive. Although I feel like, I don't know, I can't remember what E3 leaks happened for Microsoft, but I feel like Microsoft is a less leaky ship than some places. Yeah. I think it has to do with the fact that when you're a company that also does $3.5 billion defense contracts all the time, you're pretty good about keeping shit under wraps.
Yeah,
totally.
I mean, but there had been a lot of leaks about what that system is. Sure. The fact that they didn't, the Game Awards didn't leak that it was going to be revealed.
Yeah. It wasn't even rumored, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was just like, there were rumors that there were like, about what the system was. No rumors like, oh, it's going to show up at the Game Awards. Then, yeah, I mean, all they really did was show what the box looked like. That was accompanied by some like stories from GameSpot, Wired, The Verge, etc., who got like to go and talk to Phil Spencer and some people at Microsoft and see the box, it's a real tall GameCube.
It looks so cool.
I love the way that thing
looks. It doesn't have a handle, so it's bullshit. How can I take it with me?
It's true.
It is definitely 2 GameCubes stacked on top of each other. Although, again,
I think 2.5 GameCubes.
Yeah, maybe. Again, no one's going to run it vertically, just like they always show consoles vertically in marketing material, and no one ever runs their consoles vertically. So the same thing will happen here.
But even sideways, like I had this discussion with you, Pat, like it would be a tight fit in my media center.
Sure.
If that picture that I think you sent, if that is accurate, because that looks like they're like conjecture based on like, okay, well, we know how big the controller is.
I mean, if it's to scale, it's to scale. I don't know.
Yeah, but like I was like, but I think it's like wider than they're saying here. But anyway, yeah.
There's specs out there based on the disk drive, because the disk drives are a finite size.
Yeah.
So the sizing is
probably better metric
out there.
Yeah.
It's like 11 something inches tall.
I'm more
it is.
like how
thick
wide.
Yeah.
What's its girth?
It's about 4 something inches wide.
That doesn't sound right.
Also, Pat, I run my Xbox One S vertically, and I will be running the Xbox One Series X vertically if I buy one.
Okay. So, when I say things like no one does that, I know obviously there are some insane like you out there that do
it's
it.
How I fit it next to my Switch in my entertainment center.
I guess if it's inside of a cabinet, that makes sense. I can't run any of my consoles vertically because my cat would absolutely knock them over, and that is a terrifying premise.
I ran my PS4 vertically in my last apartment.
I would love to run my PS4 vertically. It looks great that way, but I know my cat would knock it off of my desk, and that is a nightmare scenario.
So I have a question for y'all. Do you think with the naming scheme they have here, that means that we never get another Xbox One, Xbox 360 is just forever going to be Xbox Series blah?
Yep.
I think it would have to be like a big, like a drastic change, because like if you do the Xbox Series X, do you do the X1, the A, like, you know, because like the X is kind of the showstopper. I think that's like the boom.
You call it the in 3 or 4, probably 4 or 5 years is more accurate. You get the 2024 Series X,
or do you get the XX?
Do you get like
the triple
X
and
the X Pro 7?
I don't think my assumption, the
X Pro 7 5G.
My assumption is that there's going to be another SKU announced that's called the Series S.
Yeah.
That like would and they'll just, those 2 consoles will get updates, but they'll just be, the year will be attached, or they'll call them like X2, the Series X2, the Series X3, the Series S2, whatever.
Yeah.
Like a MacBook.
Exactly.
Yeah,
100%.
probably.
I think that is what makes sense for them to do too, frankly.
If I was them, I would be calling it the Xbox and then putting a year on it.
That's not snazzy.
Yeah, I agree with you, Sam. I think that's the thing that makes the most sense.
And
from a consumer
also, they can't.
That's how the iPad does it.
But they also have like 6 different versions of the iPad.
Well, I would do an Xbox and an Xbox like Pro X or something.
I mean,
Xbox X is enough.
Xbox.
I don't know if they want to have a ton of different hardware options out there with how much they seem to be leaning on xCloud, though.
Well, I think the games will be, I think that if it's all unified architecture and it all just like runs better over time. I don't think they're going to do Apple and do something every 2 years or every year or whatever.
No.
I think it'll be more like every 5 years, but I do think that they're going to do more frequent, a comparable amount of updates to it as they have done over this generation, but it'll look more like this is just this is the new Series X and this is the new Series S.
Yep.
Yeah. Well,
do we think the Series S is going to be all cloud?
No, but it'll be diskless.
I assume diskless. I assume it'll lean into like, hey, you can download and play all of these Xbox One games. You can download and play all of these Xbox 360 games that we have available digitally. You can download and play all these original Xbox games. So it'll be the kind of box where you can play a lot of that stuff probably on Game Pass. I suspect that given how serious they've taught, like in Phil's article for Xbox.com, he talks about like how important all 4 generations of Xbox are to this new console.
Interesting.
I suspect you're going to start seeing some old games come to Game Pass from like the original Xbox and the 360. And I bet you that the Series S or whatever will be discless and lean into Game Pass and also lean into streaming. It won't be only for streaming, but it's going to be the Game Pass machine for sure.
If it's tiny, that would be cool as hell. Like something that's like Apple TV sized.
I doubt they're going to do that. Like
That would be
awesome.
That would be like a streaming only box, I imagine.
What if you have something like that, like next iteration? So the next S, for example, is running on whatever the best ARM chip is at the time that can actually run Xbox One games. We've seen iPad games that don't look far off Xbox and PS4 games.
I don't think they can do it.
I think with them doing the Zen 2 architecture for like their CPU and stuff, like it would be very easy to scale down to some AMD chip, like without needing to rely on ARM.
And that's actually because I mean we've just been doing a lot of conjecture here, but they actually did get out and say some stuff about the tech. No like concrete details, but they did say it's based on like the new Zen 2 architecture that just released this year from AMD.
NVMe
SSD, 1 terabyte, 16
huge.
gigabytes of RAM. So I think there's some other stuff, but
like it sounds just from like those specs without getting into actual like clock speeds and stuff like that. Like that sounds comparable to if you were to buy like without bearing in mind the graphics card, that probably like $1,000 gaming PC right now.
Which is why I have a hard time believing that it's going to be $400. But we can. That's going to be an eternal argument until the pricing comes out. I think that the Series X, I expect it to be about $50 more than whatever the PS5 is. I think that makes. I think
why,
but why? Because I think they will also put out a Series S that is $100 less than whatever the PS5 is.
Yeah, I would agree.
Budget conscious people will buy that and will be marketed that, and people that are not as budget conscious, they don't care if they're $50 or $100 over the PS5 because people who want that console are going to buy it either way. And by having 2 SKUs kind of straddling the PS5's price point, it allows them to get into homes and also not take as much of a hit on the higher end hardware.
Yeah.
Pat, just having a quick look online here, IGN's Bo Moore went through the equivalent powered stuff that you could get that they've announced from a Series X and says that it would cost $450.
That seems...
For core components, GPU, CPU, SSD.
Then it's not very powerful.
I mean,
it's a $450 PC, then I find that extraordinarily hard.
I'll send you the link. If
that's the case, then that console will be $300, and that's great.
I think
I would have to look at. I'd have to look at that thing because, like, I mean, I've got probably similar to what they've got. I think they said. Did they say 8-core CPU? Because if they did, then I think I think it's 8-core, so that'd be even a step up from where I'm at because I'm on the 3600, so that'd be like a 3700 equivalent.
A GPU capable of ray tracing is like $400 bare minimum and not that powerful.
Yeah,
I just don't believe that he built a PC that is powerful. Maybe not counting the GPU, I could believe that you could get all the other components for $400.
And like all this stuff is like custom too for that stuff, so they're doing
they're mass producing it, but
it totally won't be $1,000.
But it's like comparing it to what's available now is like difficult because we don't actually know what they've got.
Do you guys think if you were to buy this directly from Microsoft, they give you the option of buying it upfront or like a subsidized monthly bundle with with Game Pass and Gold?
They've already said they are.
Yeah. So they
because
are,
you can upgrade your if you bought all access this
right.
year. I hope they offer. I accept it if they don't, but it'd be cool if they offer upgrade path for like existing all access people because I totally would have bought into the upgradable version. But I mean, I don't expect them to. But did you have a thought, Allison? I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh no thoughts. But I think you guys are all on the point.
Yeah. So I don't know. We'll see.
Balls in Sony's court.
Well, they kind of the 2 days before, they kind of just like gently passed the ball off when they had their state of play. And I
think they're going to wait for them to reveal everything about the Series X and then be like, it's cheaper, it's faster.
See, I don't think Microsoft is going to say anything about the Series X until after anything else about it until after Sony.
I mean, they've already said they're going to, like, E3 is where they're going to do their big big reveals and stuff.
Yeah.
And I bet Sony does another like February event like they did with the PS4. That worked for them before. They get out there, they have control the messaging. I don't think Sony says absolutely everything, but I think they get out there, here's our box, here's the specs, here's that kind of stuff, and then they have, they leave some mystery.
Oops.
But one thing that is no longer a mystery is where the hell is Resident Evil 3?
Yeah.
Because
it's happening.
They showed it in the, like, we knew it was happening from the leaked box art that showed up on PSN. So that was like, okay, yeah, no, this is real. But yeah, they played a little coy. They're like, oh yeah, now to talk about Resident Evil, I can't even remember the name of the game, like the co-op game they've got. And now to talk about the campaign for the game. And then they used that as their reveal for the Resident Evil 3 remake, which was good. It was pretty clever. The clip is all in the beginning of the clip is all first person, much like Resident Evil 7. Alex suggested that the Resident Evil 3 remake would be first person. I don't think the game will be fully first person, maybe parts, or maybe it's a way you could play it.
Right.
Because later in the trailer, they do show like what looks like just standard third person gameplay. So we'll see how that goes, but I'm excited for that. They actually updated the demo for Resident Evil 2, and you can hear Nemesis going stars.
Yeah, it's pretty good
in one part. So and then like they added in a memo you can find from Jill somewhere hidden in the game. So that's neat. And I'm really looking forward to that. I was off on the date by like 2 months because they said it's in April. I was expecting February, but I'll take it. I'm on vacation at that point. So Resident Evil 3.
Resident Evil 3
was also
was my favorite back in the day.
Okay. Interesting. It seems like it's a divisive game, I think, but I'm interested to see how they handle some of those mechanics. But going forward, there was also the next day was a Nindies or Nintendo video. Did they even call it Nindies? They were just like,
it's Indie World now.
Yeah.
They haven't used the Nindies branding for a while.
It's Nintendo. I don't know. But I do know that Axiom Verge is a good game, and Axiom Verge 2 sounds like a great idea. And so I'm happy that guy's making a second one. Have everyone played Axiom Verge?
Played but not finished.
Same. I only played a little bit of it, but it's something I'd want to get back and play more.
Yeah, that's where I'm at with it too.
Maybe my favorite Metroidvania.
Interesting.
Maybe. There's so many. I've played so many in the recent years, but it's a game I always I want to go back to a lot. Because it's just got like a lot of great like upgrades and like so many guns and like different ways you could play. So yeah, that's real cool. I'm looking forward to that. Was there a date on that? I wasn't able to watch the video.
I don't remember there being a date on that.
Okay, I'm looking at an article, and Axiom Verge 2 is said to be fall of 2020.
Okay.
So.
Okay. And then also Sports Story was announced, which is from the makers of Golf Story for the Switch, which was I don't remember if it made my top 10 list in 2017, but it was like a very
it 100% made mine.
It was a very fun, goofy game. You're playing golf the entire time, but it's an RPG.
Yep.
and they pull in like they make you do weird mini games or like encounters through golf, like, oh, you got to hit this wizard who's teleporting around, and then like it's just like, what is happening?
But I feel like it's
snowmen and stuff. It's good.
But I feel like it's one of those things too where it's like it does some really weird things with it, but also at its core there is like pretty standard golf gameplay as well. So you can actually play like a round of golf, and then you play through the story where you're hitting people with golf balls and moving it around. But it's I think it shows just how much I liked Golf Story, that Sports Story might be my new most anticipated game, especially since I have like zero interest in sports, but I loved Golf Story so much, so I'm so excited.
It was a really clever game.
And this one is going to include tennis and dungeons. So don't want to end up in a tennis dungeon. That's I think there's an anime about that, probably.
Oh yeah, Tennis Dungeon is one of my favorites.
The prince of it is a big boss.
Yeah. Is there any other news that we need to touch on?
A couple other games from the indie world. I'd say the other one that was kind of weird, but I'm super on board for is Murder by Numbers, which is a visual novel, and it's like a murder mystery visual novel. But then also you look for clues and do investigation through Picross. It looks extremely fun, and I'm really excited for it. And the other one that I think a lot of people were talking about that I'm really excited to give a shot is Super Mash, which is where you match up different genres, and it gives you a weird game from mashing up the genres. So I think that looks really nifty as well. So yeah.
Awesome. That is going to do it for this episode of Gaming Fix. Episode 100, the big 100.
Woo!
What's another funny thing for 100? I don't know. What? C?
Isn't that the Roman numeral for 100?
I have no. Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. I haven't studied Roman numerals since I was like 7. Anyway, that's going to do it. Thank you all for joining us. If you've been here with us since episode 1, or if you've joined us somewhere along the way, we appreciate you being here. And because of that, we're doing that game giveaway. And head over to the Twitter Fix Podcast to get entered, or send us an email at gaming@fix.space with either a picture of General Grievous's butt, Jeff Keighley's butt, or your
Darth Vader's butt is also acceptable.
Your underrated game.
The butt of any Star Wars character is available.
Of the 2010s.
Any?
Oh no, then maybe never mind.
Are you afraid we're going to get Jabba the Hutt butts?
Yeah, that's where my mind went.
Does Jabba have a butt?
Is Jabba the butt?
Jabba the butt.
Jabba the butt.
How many orifices does Jabba have?
At least 3.
At least 5.
That the way that was phrased is like gonna give me nightmares.
Okay,
he's got to send an email to gaming@fix.space with a picture of Jeff Keighley's butt, or your underrated game
and
of 2010s.
Ears.
2010s.
So that's 5.
And
I'm gonna say 7.
You can find me on Twitter at Coolslaw, COOLSL4W.
Is that why he's just so big? He just doesn't let
Allison,
anything
where
go?
can people find you?
Much waste, and I think it all comes out of his mouth.
People can find me on Twitter at WRITERSERENYTY.
Pat, where can people find you?
You can find me at PJC Plays, and also exploring the Junlin Wastes to try to find a hut to ask about their holes.
But
Okay.
I don't think we can call it a butt.
You can find me at SCCH on almost every platform. And while you were studying Roman numerals, I was studying the blade.
Oh God.
Goodbye, everyone.
Alex, there is one more way that people can enter our giveaway. Would you like to inform them?
What way is that?
Guys, we are on another platform.
Oh yeah, of course.
Right.
Yeah, if you go to pornhub.com/user/COOLSL4W, you can comment on any of those videos, and yeah, we'll be sure to get you entered.
What do they do? Is there any comment in particular? Should they follow the page?
Yeah,
I think it should be a non-sexual related comment so that we know that you've listened to the podcast.
Tell me your favorite breed of kitty cat.
Okay, that's okay. So you can go to Pornhub and tell us your favorite breed of kitty cat in the comments. You will have to leave your full name and number, full name and email
Social
in the
security
comments
number.
so we can contact you.
Yeah.
You can email us at gaming@fix.space or go to Fix Podcast. That'll be the easiest way for you to enter, but these other options are available to you.
There's another simple way to enter. If you just send sam@fix.space, your full debit card number and the 3 digits on the back and the expiry date.
Yep.
Just send the full credit card to the full debit card.
Just take a picture of the
Mail
front and
Sam
back.
your credit card.
No, don't take a picture. Send the card.
I'm not giving anyone my address. That's personal information.
That's
Just take a
good point.
picture of the debit card and send me the front and back.
Send him a 3D scan of the card so we can 3D print your debit card.
Yep. Yep.
That's going to do it for
you
us.
can mail that to Sam in Orlando, Florida. Anyways,
thank you for joining us. Join us next week when we prestige and start over again at episode 1 of the podcast, but with one star. But we're a 5-star podcast. Go review us somehow.
Yeah, give us 5 stars.
For 100,
If you
5
review the
stars for 100
podcast,
episodes.
You'll get an entry too. Let's do it all.
I can't promise that.
Let's do it all.
But you should review us. Where can be? Didn't iTunes do away with reviews?
no, you can still
how to
review. You can still review
Okay.
on iTunes. You can review on Stitcher. Most places.
They did do away with iTunes. iTunes doesn't exist.
Yeah.
does on the phone.
It's called Apple Music.
Okay. I don't know.
Or Apple Podcasts.
Apple Podcasts. Yeah, I don't even know. The Apple ecosystem is very confusing. Anyway, thanks for joining us, everybody.
everyone.
We'll be back next week and game of the year stuff in 3 weeks.
Woo!
That's
Game of the week. It's going to be game of the week. You got to pick
Game of
a
the
favorite
week.
game from that week.
Okay, the best game to release next week. Let's see what it
But
is.
it's that week every year in the history of games,
Oh God.
which means
Oh.
doing it at the end of the year is kind of tough.
Not a lot of great games come out in like late December.
That's what we should do every week from now on. That should be the new
No.
format.
The best
Oh.
game of
God.
all time to
Yeah,
release
the
in
best
a
game
given
of all
week.
time during that week.
Oh, fuck.
The besties used to do best game of the week every week. That was funny.
That's
Wow.
That sounds exhausting, man.
and expensive.
And expensive.
And they did the best game of the week, and then they battle royaled it for game of the year. And they basically like each game knocked out a previous game, and then game of the month went to game of the year.
That's just how TKO works.
Yeah. Anyway,
Okay. Now
catch
for
me on
real.
Thank you.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
I think you
Bye.
mean T-shirt Island.
So long.
Farewell.